Hello, 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 everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Hey, Jersey, how you doing, sweetie? Number one in here tonight. All right, there we go. Says, hey, everyone. Good evening. Hey there, PG. Much love to you, girl. God bless. Number two, Brat. Good evening, PG. Much love. God bless. Prayers and love for Summer Moon Utah Wells. Prayers and love for Miss Norway. And prayers for everyone in the chat. Hey, girl, number two. Good to see you. Hi, there you go. Miss Justice, number three. Much love, PG. Hey, girl, much love to you. God bless. And Australia is number four tonight. All right. PG, much love to you. Good to see everybody in here. Good to see you all. All right, I'm heading down. Hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Brad. God bless. Hey, Janet, good to see you. Trina, how you doing, sweetie? There's Caroline. How you doing? Good to see you in here tonight. I appreciate everybody coming in. Spread love. How you doing, sweetie? Brenda, Lynn, Caroline, how you doing? Good to see you. 1163. How you doing? All right. I lost my place coming down through here. Forgive me if I forget your name. If I don't see it, I'm sorry. Southern Mama, how you doing? Brenda, I don't know if I called you or not. Raven Rose, how you doing, sweetie? Good to see everybody in here tonight. Hey, Raven Mama. Wanda, good to see you, girl. God bless. All right. Um, Let me see. Oh, that's sweet, Brenda. Welcome, spread love. Amen. Patty Ponytail, good to see you. Patty Allen says hello, PG. Hello to you. Good to see everybody in here. Australia, God bless. Much love to you, girl. You know it. Ruby Jean, how you doing, sweetie? Good to see you. All right. Absolutely. Absolutely, Janet. I appreciate that. God bless. All right. Wanda says blessings to all. Much love. Much love to you, girl. God bless. Um, I'm gonna get started here tonight. I noticed that Fred and Ziggy's been out more. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that. Fred, I'm glad to see Fred is, taking the time to answer questions and talk and correspond with the people about Summer's case. It's good to see that. I know that, he was kind of in the background. He was kind of in the background before, um, and you could catch some of what he was saying, some of it you couldn't, so forth, so on. But he's actually, sitting at the, with Ziggy at the computer now, and where you can hear him loud and clear and talking, and that's good. That's good because he's offering to answer questions and so forth and so on. I did get to ask him a question about, you know, um, Jody Sue's son being in the pool up there. Andy keeps saying, "Oh, that was Hunter," and so forth and so on. And so, I asked Fred, and he clarified it. Yes, absolutely. It was. It definitely was Jody Sue's son that he saw up there. He knows his nephew, right? He knows his nephew when he sees him. And he was like, yeah. It definitely was. Sorry, y'all, but I had to turn my fan around. That's the clicking you heard. I had to turn that fan around. Um, but yeah. Anyhow, I'm going to tell you something. Whoa, we are definitely getting. We're starting to get into the summertime, right? We're definitely hitting summer. Um, I don't know if you guys have kids or not, but you probably do. Um, you probably have your grandkids now that school's out, right? Kids and grandkids, but I have I have kids, and I'm going to tell you, with school being out, they keep you quite busy because they're always wanting to, they're wanting to go to the pool, they're wanting to go here, they're wanting to go there. Um, summer's just barely starting, and all the kids are already wanting to go to the water parks and the arcades and putting and bowling and anything and everything they can think of, they're wanting to get out and do. Right, let's go for pizza, let's go for ice cream. They can keep you busy through the summertime, right? I thank goodness for the school year. um my kids are definitely on a holiday. All right. They're gonna be on a holiday for a couple of months. I'm trying to decide if I'm looking forward to it or not right now. I'm only a couple weeks into this, and I'm already tired. Right? Wow, Brat, where are you at? 105 degrees. Oh my gosh, you're like in the middle of a desert somewhere, right? I don't know where she's at, but whoa, man, I want to tell you, if it starts getting up in the 80s, I'm sweating. Hey, hello, PG's little girl. How you doing, sweetie? Good to see you. Oh wow. All right. 1956, starting off the night right. All right. Thank you for being the leader of Summer's Army. God bless. Hey, girl. I appreciate all of you being here supporting her every night. God bless. God bless. And I appreciate you supporting Summer's channel tonight. Amen. Um, I believe Summer is going to get justice. I truly believe that Summer will get justice. Absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to talk tonight a little bit about the PI. We got, this PI running around, and he's actually, saying that he's got information that's going to solve Summer's case and so on and so forth. And, whatever. Oh, I appreciate that. Um, yeah, Karen. Yes, Karen. I'm definitely staying out here. Absolutely. For a while. For a while. How long? I don't know. But I'm staying for a while because right now, I do know that they're looking into some stuff, and it's a very good possibility that that, you know, something's going to break in Summer's case, you know, in the near future, in the very near future. So yes, I will be hanging around. What are you doing, girl? You trying to get rid of me? You what? You trying to get rid of PG? Ain't that easy to get rid of, right? I think Karen's trying to get rid of me, you guys. I'm starting to feel paranoid. um, absolutely, Janet. God bless. She said no. LOL. No, I'm going to stick around for a while. I'm definitely sticking around for a while. To be honest with you, I was getting pretty frustrated with Hawkins County and TBI. I was getting really frustrated because I know there was some very, you know, solid tips that went in, and I, you know, didn't feel that they was moving, and then I didn't feel that they was moving quick enough, and then I kind of felt that, you know, that they was at a crossroad, but you know, thankfully they crossed it, and you know, so there's things behind the scenes in the works, and it's a very good possibility they got that little bit more that they, you know, that they was needing to possibly. What I'm saying is, I know that there's a couple different locations being looked into, not just one, a couple of locations being looked into. So, you know, that's as much as I can say. Yeah, I know, Karen. I was just messing with you, girl. I was just playing with you. Um, yeah, and definitely this. Well, the cemetery is definitely getting looked into. The cemetery is definitely in the works of being looked into. Yes, that's a for sure right there. That's a for sure. Enough solidness on that came in, that is definitely right now in the works of being looked into. Um, her son-in-law Ray needs her and her kids. Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's their job. That's their job. You know, when tips come in, they have to. You know, I mean, it takes a minute because you know they got so much that they got to catch up on, but they're going to get to it. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that, you know, it is in the works. It will properly be looked into on their time, though. On their time, not my time. It'll be looked into on their time. And trust me, they take their time, right? They take their time. So, but 4 years out here, you can get very frustrated. You can get very, very frustrated out here, after 4 years of, you know, covering a child's case and trying to figure out everything you can on the behalf of the child and for the child. And, especially, I mean, it's hard to work a missing child's case. It is really hard to work a missing child's case when you've got, you know, like normal type people. Yeah, they're abnormal, as in usually they're the ones that did it, but they're normal type people, as in, um, they're good actors. They want to play the really good parents. They want to play, all of this different alibis, and they want to play all of this stuff. And, um, what I'm saying is, some people, it's really hard, it's really hard to, um, determine at first, right? It's hard to determine right off the bat if they did something or not. Um, and sometimes it's hard to determine a little ways down the road. You might get 2 or 3 weeks and down the road and you're still thinking, there's something off, but you know, you suspect, always suspect the parents and stuff, and you're thinking, there's something off, but then you want to just wonder if it ain't, if it ain't you, if it ain't you, dealing with cases so much and seeing, the same old, that you're just wanting to, you're just assuming it's going to go the same way every time and so forth, and you have to, keep working, and you got to find that hard evidence, and you've got to get everything solid, and you really got to, pretty much, find the child. Most of the time you got to find the child, and you got to have people surrounding the case willing to speak up, and willing to talk, and give a lot of insight that can, lead you in the right direction with the truth. And a lot of cases you have that, and that's how they get solved. But when you don't very often hit a case, you don't very often hit a case like this. You hit more cases like Jack and Lily, where the parents are tripping up their original statements and so forth and so on, and and that gives you a excellent ideal that something more is going on, and who you need to be suspecting and so forth and so on in a case like that. And Summer's case, this is very out of the, like, super abnormal from the beginning. It's been abnormal all the way through, even to now. It's still abnormal as hell, right? It's a very abnormal case because you got all kinds of people and they're all wanting to play these games. You got this group. I mean, it's like I said, Summer's case wasn't ever isolated. I told you guys that from the beginning, that this ain't an isolated case. This is a group of people. Like, there's more to all of this than just Don, Candace, and Grandis. And when you have, it's like you're not playing, checkers, you're playing chess with these people. And it can be very discouraging. It can be very discouraging because, they're always, saying something, and then, not, not making the move to push it home for Summer's sake to be found. They're always, grabbing it back. They're like staying in their little corner, And that's not good. Yeah, he jumped. Yeah, he jumped on the Idaho 4 case. Absolutely. He did. He jumped on the Idaho 4 case. And like said he's going to go out there and he's going to find a weapon. I'm sorry to tell him, but they've done tore down the entire house. And, you know, whoever done that to the Idaho 4, they lost the sleeve, right? They lost the sleeve to the weapon. They didn't lose the weapon. Trust me, whoever did that knows exactly where the weapon is. Absolutely. And, you know, I don't know, you know, do I think Kohlberger did it? Yes. That's my opinion. Yes. I truly believe that he did do it. He looks like he would do it. Um, you know, his sisters, you know, feel like he did it. You know, so I mean he has family members that actually, you know, I mean the only one really going up to bat for him was his dad. And you know, so I don't know. I don't know. Do do I think he's going to get, you know, away with what he did? Mm, I don't think so. You know, but they're dragging it out. They're dragging it out. You know, a lot of people think that if they drag the case out, you know, that it's going to get, you know, that they might be able to get off and get away with what they did. Um, I don't think I don't think dragging it out is the, you know, is the smart thing to do. I think the smartest thing to do is go to, you know, you want to get your lawyer and you want to go to trial ASAP, because I think you got a lot better chance of winning your case if you know, if you do it quickly, if you get it done very quickly. Because it ain't giving people time to think. It ain't giving them time to, you know, read up a bunch of stuff. It ain't giving them time to, you know, really throw a lot of judgment on you and so forth and so on. You know that those jurors sitting on that jury has done, you know, read all the headlines and they know everything about, you know, everything. And because his case is just drug out so long, you know, it allows them to, you know, get so much access to, you know, to what's going on. And reading all of that headlines and news and all of that, you know, is going to sway their decision. And that's why you want to do it as quick as possible, because all of that stuff, you know, is just coming out. There ain't a whole lot of it out there. And, you know, it makes them less biased towards you. If they haven't, you know, had time to get brainwashed with everything that's, you know, in the tabloids and the media and all the stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, the stepdad is on Jack and Lily's case. The stepdad is, well, the stepdad has changed, you know, has changed up his story something fierce. I mean, first it was the girlfriend, the children's mother. The children's mother said that, you know, she was the one that asked, you know, Daniel if he heard the kids. And he said no. And then they both, and then now Daniel's saying it was him that asked her. So, now the story's changed up, right? I mean, they can't keep, they're lying because they can't keep their story straight. Um, Daniel did say he passed a lie detector's test, and now I'm hearing people say that he lied, that he didn't pass it. I don't know. I don't know if he passed it or he didn't pass it. Um, you don't know what, that's the problem when you have a missing child's cases. You got to do all your research, and you got to, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to bring the truth to the table. Because you'll hear a lot of different things, and it's BS. It's BS. And, people are saying it, they don't care what they say, because it ain't about the truth. It ain't about finding the missing kids. It's about, click, likes, and views. And when people, and that's the problem. That's the problem, is when it's about click, likes, and views. You got a lot of people just saying whatever they can to, to throw a headline to get everybody in there, and basically bullshit everybody into believing a bunch of stuff that ain't true. And that ain't helping the missing child. That is not helping the missing child that needs to be found, brought home, and justice served on its behalf. That the only person that's helping is the creator, that's spreading a bunch of damn lies, and they know it's lies, and they don't care, and they're doing it at the expense of missing children. And that's sickening. That, that's just bullshit. I don't care what anybody says. It's bullshit. And, I like the truth. I like the truth. These children need the truth. And they need somebody that's willing to, do the homework and the research. And, you don't have to lie to kick it out here. You don't have to lie to kick it. You can do all the research. And I mean, the people want to hear the truth. This world is ready to hear the truth. This world is ready to face the truth. This world is changing, and it wants the truth. It needs the truth. And they're seeking the truth. And that's what they want to hear. And the truth is way more entertaining than a bunch of damn lies. And I think people are starting to realize that. I think people, are waking up, and they're starting to realize that, the truth is way more interesting than a bunch of bullshit. And I think people's tired of being bullshitted too. I think they're tired of being ran around the bush. It's kind of like, the pity party stuff, at first you could tolerate it, everybody's jumping on the pity party train, and it was kind of exciting, and to hear all these people's, fucking problems and issues and stuff, and and sympathizing with them and stuff was, at first it was, something new, something different. But, it didn't take people long to get tired of hearing this shit, because, the train got full. Matter of fact, it got overflowed, and people just, they're like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. Because everybody carries their own problems, right? We all carry our own problems, our own burdens, and we don't want to be overloaded. We don't want to be overloaded with a shit ton of everybody else's burdens when they really don't have any, right? They don't really have any problems at all. Oh, they don't get no me time. Who gives a damn, right? I don't care if they don't get no me time. That's their damn problem. Um, I was intelligent enough to know that, when I decided to have kids, my me time was over, right? I was smart enough to know that my party days were done. I'm bringing people into the world that count on me and depend on me, and I have to be there for them. And if I couldn't be there for them, then I had no business having them. And, it ain't about me. It's about them. When you decide to have children, it's about them. It's no longer about your ass, right? And a lot of people, those pity parties didn't understand that. Those pity parties we were all listening to, forever and a day. You know, and then all of these people's mommy issues and their damn daddy issues, and you know, um, come on, you know, you adults shouldn't have mommy and daddy issues. You know, I don't think adults should have mommy and daddy issues. Once you're an adult, you don't have to, you know, you're no longer, your parents ain't an issue once you become an adult. Once you become an adult, you know, everything you do, everything's on you then. If you stick around and you let people keep abusing you after you become an adult, that's your problem. You know, that's nobody's problem but your own. And quit blaming your parents. Quit blaming your damn parents. Blame yourself. You know, work a job, buy your own shit, get out, do what you need to do. You're not a kid anymore. Quit harping on it, right? Move that ass on. That's what, you know, that's what I think. And yeah. So anyway, you know, the pity party stuff, you know, went south. It got soured. It got soured and went south. It was sour when it first started, but it got real soured the more it went, and people just got tired of it. And I think that's what people are doing, you know, with the with hearing lies and so forth. You know, used to be people, you know, people really didn't want to hear the truth, but now people's like, give me the truth. I'm tired of hearing the bullshit. I want the truth. I need the truth. You know, I need to face the truth. I need, you know, I want a better world. I want a better, you know, better place to live, a safer place to live for not just myself, but my children and my grandchildren and great grandchildren and even their children on down the line, you know. Um, and I think people are really, you know, ready to face the truth in every area going on in this world right now. Hey, tell Raymond we love him, girl. You know it. You let him know he's loved, cared about. And you know, don't worry. Don't worry. He's a strong man. He'll get through this. You know, this too shall pass. This too shall pass, right? Yeah. Positive. Stay positive. I'm going to tell you, I truly believe that people who, if you want to live, God's going to let you live. If you really want to live, God's going to let you live. He's going to let you keep on keeping on, you know, if you truly want to. God knows. And I, you know, people say it's God's will. Well, I think our will is God's will. If your will is, you know, if your will is righteous and you're wanting to live and keep on keeping on for righteous reasons, your will is, you know, is God's will. And God loves you. He loves you. So he's going to, you know, he's going to give you what you want. You just gotta have that faith, baby. Amen. There you go, girl. And God knows, you know. Hey, Moonchild. How you doing, sweetie? Good to see you in here. Amen. Right. Ain't that the truth, Brenda? Yeah, it ain't no me time. You decide to have kids, you know, you gotta put your Louis Vuitton away, right? You can't get on the internet and order up your Louis, you know, your 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 stacks and all your, you know, fancy fancy stuff that you love wearing and love buying, and you know, you got to, you know, us diamond girls have to, we have to put away the diamonds, right? We got to put away the diamonds. It's time to start buying diapers and milk and baby bottles and pacifiers and right, crib beds and bassinets and little blankets that, you know, and all them clothes that they outgrow so quick, right? Those clothes, you start going, you know, when you first start shopping for your baby, you're buying all that tiny little stuff, everything that just fits it and stuff. And next thing you know, you're out there buying everything a size bigger, right? Every time you go in the store, you're looking at the clothes, you get them a size bigger because it's a waste of money. If you get the right size, you're just wasting your money, honey. You always get that size bigger so they, because that they're going to get some wear out of it then. Um, it don't take long to get wise when, you get very wise being a mom. Oh, God bless Ruby. Absolutely, girlfriend. See there? See there? That's right. I'm going to tell you, God works miracles, baby. And I'll tell you what, he still works them. Jesus healed when he walked this earth, and he still heals today. He still heals right now. As we speak, he's healing. Amen. There's somebody out there. There's somebody out there praying, somebody out there praying, for healing. There's people praying, to make their bills and stuff, their ends meet. There's people praying, for transportation. There's people praying, for all different things. Just some food in the house. Whole lot of people praying for a lot of things. And I'm telling you, God hears you. God hears you, and all you got to do is know. All you got to do is know that he's going to answer those prayers, that it's going to be okay. And it will. It will. If you believe, it'll be all right. I don't know who I'm speaking to tonight, but obviously somebody. Obviously somebody I'm speaking to. I mean, you know who you are. I don't know who you are, but you do. And, and that's the message. That's the message God wants you to know. I don't know who in this chat needs it. I don't know who you are, but God wants you to know it's going to be okay. Just stop worrying. Quit it. Everything's going to be all right. And you know it. Deep down, you know it. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You know. So just stop and let God, let God do what God does. He'll make it all right. He is going to make it all right, girlfriend. Trust me. Amen. Absolutely. But I wanted to talk about, I came in to talk about the PI, he says he's got two guys, two brothers, it was a B&E gone wrong. I call BS on that. Trust me, I'm calling BS on that. And the reason I am is because I talked with someone, and I know what I'm doing in all of this. And the tips that they're following came in before before they ever even heard about this guy and what this guy's saying. And do you know the funny thing is? And do you know that law enforcement didn't even, did you know that you guys, somebody out here, you guys, do you know you guys turned it in before this PI did? Do you know that there was people on YouTube reporting this information to law enforcement before the PI even called? And the person I talked to said they don't even know if he's reported it yet. That's what I was told, that they don't know if he's even reported it yet. They're going to check into it, but they don't know if he even reported it. But social media did. People from social media did. So there you go. And that's why I say, it's BS, to be honest with you. And did you see how fast this PI went off of Summers' case and onto the Idaho 4? like, hey, everybody, come out here and join me to look for a weapon, Um, BS. I mean, I'm going to tell you what, I think Chris McDonough found more than this PI will ever find when it comes to the Idaho 4. Because Chris found a glove. He actually found a glove out there, that was overlooked by law enforcement. Chris found it and turned it in. So, I think with Chris being out there already and his eagle eye, if they'd have been anything, if they'd have been anything to find, I'm sure Chris would have spotted it along with all the other officers and everything combing that whole place. So, do you want to come out here and join me? No, I don't want to waste my time. Right? I'm not into wasting my time, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna go run around, in a place where, they turned into a pile of rubbish and hauled away. I'm not gonna go waste my time running around and all of that. You know, that's kind of creepy. That's kind of creepy if you ask me, um, with everything that happened on that premises and everything went down and happened on that premises there. Um, I don't think I want to go out there and, and disturb all of that. I know law enforcement did their job. When it comes to the Idaho 4, I know that law enforcement did a thorough job, and they did what needed to be done. They got this guy. They're prosecuting this guy. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Nobody needs to be out there, you know, um, disturbing that ground that such a tragedy happened upon. Right? I ain't going out there and do nothing like that. That's insane. Right? But yeah, I mean, I think he tried to gaslight us, to be honest with you. I something about him. I mean, this ain't the way to go about building your name. Actually, this is the way of going about ruining it, if you ask me. Just saying. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. And I'm allowed to have that. You know, I don't like people to come out and, um, and mislead everybody in a missing child's case. That's bullshit for sure. But this is some of the stuff he says about he received a tip from someone anonymous caller and from Rogersville, Tennessee, and gave him a bunch of information and then it's if he was anonymous, then how the hell who his brother is? How in the hell how? Because I know he was saying something about he had names and all this stuff, and now he's saying anonymous caller, and if you're anonymous, that means your ass don't got no names, right? How you gonna have a name if ring ring ring, hello, this is an anonymous caller. I just want to tell you some things, right? Like your feet stink. Click. Right? I mean, oh, I know that guy's name. Right? Well, he must know who he took his shoes off around. He must know who he took his shoes off around that would be calling him or something. I don't know. But I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. Right? That's funny stuff, right? You gotta admit that is hilarious. To be honest with you. And we also know that Don and Candace and Grandis are number one suspects, right? I mean, we've known that from day one that they're number one suspects out here. And they can't clear themselves, right? And, Don's talking all this stuff. Oh, I got a letter from DCS, PCS, whatever. How them are freaking initials. But anyway, I got these. Me and Candace got letters, and oh, we're so happy. Let's have a party, right? Let's have a party. Yeah, they got a couple of letters, of DCS saying, "Hey, we're done with you. We ain't putting no more money into you." The kids are already all adopted out. Um, everybody's pretty sure that Summer ain't coming home, right? She ain't coming home. If we found her, you'd be in prison. We ain't worried about that. If Summer comes home, we can keep her. Don, you let us know Summer wasn't coming home, and Candace and Grandis, and and a whole lot of other people in their circle as well, right? Everybody in their circle let us know Summer, Summer ain't coming home. That's for sure. So, um, you know, that's insane. And law enforcement pretty much knows Summer ain't coming home, right? They wasn't out there in the woods looking for a wandering off, living, breathing child. They were out there in those woods you know, looking for an unlive child that somebody stashed somewhere that, they could get for evidence to prosecute, these people upon. That's what they were out there looking for. And that's why, they waited till all the foliage went down and went back out there, to look again, because they wanted to be able to see the ground. They wanted to be able to get a real good look at the ground to see if, there was anything disturbed or anything, that had been, you know, um, stuffed in the foliage, that was stuffed in, like, some bushes or weeds or whatever. They wanted to get a clear look into all of those, all of that dried up foliage out there, to see if anything had been hidden in it, upon it, around it. And they were, they was checking for ground to see if any of it was sinking or anything looked like, maybe a makeshift grave. So, and they kept coming back to 110, 110, 110. So that tells me there's nothing elsewhere, because they're always coming back to the same place. And anytime law enforcement keeps, swarming the same exact place, well, that's where their target is, right? That's right where their target is. That's right who they suspect and everything. And, if you, I think we're all smart enough to know, and a lot of us, a lot of us has been fortunate enough to live in poverty, right? So we'll be thankful for everything we have in this life. But I think a lot of us have been fortunate enough to, live in the hood, and we know when law enforcement is surrounding a certain area, that you're like, whoa, somebody's going down, right? Somebody's going down. It's like, why'd you do it? Why'd you do it, little Billy? Right? Because you going down now. It just is what it is. They're circling, little Billy's place, then that's their target. Little Billy done did something that law enforcement want to be getting him on. And that's what, June 15th, 2021, June 16th, 17th, 18th, right? Let's go into 2022, 2023. Law enforcement always goes back to 110, right? It's always going back to Ben Hill Road. It ain't going anywhere else. It's going to Ben Hill Road. And that's the target on Summers, her missing case. that right there is the target, and that's who they suspect. And that's, that's the way it is. Yeah, and Lily and Jack's case, law enforcement keeps going, back to Daniel and the mom, back to Daniel and the mom. They're not branching out anywhere else because their number one suspects is Daniel and the mom. They're right there on that property. Maybe even the uncle, or grandma. That what Whoever their target is right there in that vicinity because that's where they keep showing up at. So that's a telltale sign. It's a telltale sign wherever the person keeps showing up at. That's pretty much where they're going to be, dealing. I think I do too. I think Hunter. I think if Hunter, I think if Hunter wanted to, he could confirm that Summer is no longer alive. I think if Hunter wanted to, but he don't want to. He don't want to, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him because it's my opinion. It's my opinion. Candace had Hunter. It's my opinion is Candace had Hunter. On live Summer. That's my opinion. That's what I think. I believe that, I believe that's why she, got the twisted teas and the vapes and probably some other stuff, and went out there, went out to that swimming hole. And I think that, she tried to give that boy's, gave that boy a shot of courage to go out there and do what she wanted him to do. And shoot, if he told, he'd be telling on himself. And if he told on himself, he'd be going to prison. I mean, that's just the way it is, And so I don't expect him to be telling, I don't expect him to be. I mean, would you tell on yourself? Hell no. You would one going up. I mean, that don't make no sense. You got to make that make sense right there. Right? It's like, your parents come in the kitchen, like, who took that cookie out of the cookie jar? Right? Who did it? You ain't going to say me. Hell no. You're going to say not me, even if you got cookie crumbs around your mouth, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you got cookie crumbs all around your mouth and a big ring of white freaking milk, right? You could have the freaking milk on your upper lip, cookies hanging out your freaking mouth because you're still chewing on it. You ain't going to say me. You're going to turn around and try to finish up that cookie and hope they didn't see it, and you're going to be shaking your head no, even if you can't talk. Because the cookie's in your mouth. Come on. Hell no. Because you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble, And, your parents might ground you. They might ground you. You might have to go sit on the sofa for a while, I wish I had those kind of parents. Man, wouldn't it have been nice to have those kind of parents? Wouldn't it be nice to have that parent that says, you're in timeout. I'm going to take your tablet. You get your tablet took. You can't play on the tablet for a couple hours. Man, I would have been like, boy, I thought I was in heaven. Take my tablet. Man, you can take it, have it. I don't care. I'm going to tell you what, my parents, I didn't have those parents that said, oh, I'm going to take your tablet. My parents were like, I'm going to take some skin off your backside. All right. Yeah, it ain't going to be no timeout. That's for sure. I'm going to tell you something. They believed in, my parents believed in, spare the rod, spoil the child. Right? They wasn't no timeout. Heck no. I mean, You forget about timeouts. You can forget about timeouts, right? Go sit over there for a couple hours. Who cares? Sure, I'll go sit over there for a while. That's a break. My parents is like, now, now that you can't sit down, right? Now that you ain't able to sit down for a while, you can go out there and, cut the grass and clean the yard and, haul out the garbage and, and do a few other chores, maybe wash the windows and all that good stuff, since you're going to be standing up for a while. Right? That's the kind of parents I had. Oh yeah, Andrew's something different. Oh, Andrew said, "Oh, let me do tell." Andrew said, "Listen, you guys, I'm going to have a talk with my son, and after I have a talk with my son, I'll be back to talk to you guys. Right? I'll let you know." Like he's somebody. I'm like, what? What son? What son do you got, man? You didn't raise that boy. You sent somebody down there to get him, and he was hiding from you, right? He didn't even want you to pick him up. So, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Yeah. Like, and he's like, we're going to have a real talk. And I mean a real talk, whatever. I don't know. Andrew's like, I think that guy hallucinates, to be honest with you. I really do. Like, Hunter came out and like, what? I got a recording of Hunter saying, what dad? This guy wants to play dad. He ain't never been around for me, one of them make-believe daddies. I have a video of some, Hunter talking about his dad, how he wasn't ever there, and he ain't gonna listen to Andrew. Hunter's like, I'm my own man. I've been taking care of myself since I was, like knee high, right? I've been taking care. I raised myself, dude. Where the hell was you when I was raising myself? You ain't never done nothing for me. I had the mother freaking, I had to take all mom's rent money to get a tattoo. Why didn't you send me some money for a tattoo? Mom might still be here. Right? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding you guys. That ain't something to kid about, but Andrew would have sent some money for a tattoo. Allison might still be here. I mean, I think, in my opinion, I think Hunter was like, stole mommy's money, went and got a tattoo. Mom was real upset. Mom knew everything, I think Allison knew everything because, Candace and them brought Summer in her home to redress her and stage her up on the milk jugs in front of the house. I think, and all Allison's cameras disappeared. I think Allison kept the clothes that Summer was wearing, washed them up. And that's why Grandis and Candace went back, not to really question Hunter, but they could have did that on the phone. They went back to that house to get the clothes that were left there for Allison to wash up and everything so they wouldn't be found at Candace's place when law enforcement came. That's my opinion. And I'm probably very right. And, so they come back there for those clothes that Candace had hidden in that box. And I'm sure Allison, washed them up real good in a lot of soap and bleach and everything else, and Candace, had them hidden up in the box. But, I think Allison, when she got her rent money and everything took, I think Allison said, I should have told on you. I should have let you go to jail. Matter of fact, I might still call police and, I'm going to call and tell them what you did, I mean, I think Allison started to see that, protecting this boy has only, has only opened the door for him to turn on her like he was turning on everybody else. But she should have seen that coming. If you let your children disrespect other people, they at some point they're going to disrespect you. You're opening a door up. You're not opening a door up to let your kids, disrespect everybody else. You just opened a damn door for your kids to disrespect you, and you was too, blind to see it. And that's why you raise your kids to respect other people. You raise your kids up, to respect their elderly, to respect younger kids, to be a role model in society. And you make your kids take self-blame. You don't sit around and blame their friends and blame this and blame that, because all you're going to do is, because now your kids, your kids see you blaming their friends for their actions, and you see you blaming everybody else for their actions. Your kid is going to start blaming you. Your kid's going to say, oh yeah, well, it's my friend's fault that I'm doing this, and it was that person's fault I did this, and it's your fault now. Now it's your fault, and they ain't got nobody, no friends or anybody else to blame it on. They're going to start blaming it, everything, because they can't take self-blame because you didn't ever make them take it. And I think that's what Allison's seen. I think she saw that she didn't ever make him take self-blame when really she should have. But she wanted to protect this boy. That was her son. And she was willing to go along with a whole lot of things she didn't want to. But, it was coming back at her. He thought he had her, in a corner. Well, you're an accessory to it. You tell on, you say something, they brought her in your house. They dressed her in here. You had knowledge, and you're going to jail too, Mom, right? You're going to jail too. And I think, but I think Allison's like, might have hit a point where she said, I don't care if I go to jail. You're taking my money. You think that, you can threaten me up and all of this stuff. He's hollering, he's a kid. You're the one that, covered this up. You're the one that told me to keep my mouth shut, putting things, and now he's using and abusing her. And I think she's like, I'm going to go to law enforcement. And it's funny because Leslie, I understand. I don't know for sure. Put a 1 in the chat if you heard this too. But I heard that Leslie was keeping him. And then Leslie went to Allison and told Allison if Allison didn't go to the police, she was. Put a 1 in the chat if you heard that too. I heard there was some kind of big dispute between Hunter's girlfriend's mother, between Leslie, Allison, and Hunter's girlfriend's mother. And I heard that Leslie said, if you don't go to the police, I will, because of something Leslie found out. And then the next thing you know, Leslie, was supposedly sick, fell the same way that Allison did, and went into a coma like Allison did, and passed away like Allison did. And, and then they cremated her, which they did Allison too, which I found funny that neither one of these people were buried, right? Neither one of them was buried to be exhumed later. But, so you had 2 people pass away exactly the same way. And I think both of them threatened Hunter with law enforcement. Put a 2 in the chat if you agree with me. I think both of them did. I think Allison did over her rent money and the tattoos he got. And I think Leslie was threatening because of something she knew. And, and she just came up unalived as well. So, and that means that, Allison pretty much knew that Hunter, didn't only know about Summer, everything about Summer, but also, Alice about Leslie as well. And, or at least she suspected it about Leslie. And, it happened to her as well. I mean, I think it's insane that two people end up passing away the exact same way. And the common denominator was one person, Hunter, and both of them were threatening to go to law enforcement, right? Both of them was threatening to go to law enforcement. Leslie, because of something she found out, and then Allison, because of all of her, all of her rent money and the way Hunter was, was acting out. So both of them, you know, these ladies. Ruby says, I lost a couple of friends. You lost a couple of friends that close together that was sick, that supposedly, had the C word and was sick, and they just fell and hit their heads hard enough to put them in comas, and they just died. You had two friends like that? There's a difference. There's a difference, There's a lot of people that have aneurysms, you know. I think that's possibly what you were talking about is an aneurysm, that takes people out. Yeah, but um, the doctor didn't say that this is the thing. Leslie did not have an aneurysm, and neither did Allison. Allison had problems. She had problems with with some issues like kind of like that. But um that is not what's on her certificate. That's not what's on her certificate. The doctor didn't say she went out with an aneurysm. They said that she, hit her head because she was sick. She fell and hit her head hard enough to put her into a coma. Now there's a big difference, in whacking your head hard enough to go into a coma, because you fell because you were sick. Now Leslie went the exact same way. She was sick and she fell. And the fall and hitting her head is what put her into the coma and made her pass away. Leslie, and Allison went the same way. We're talking about a head injury, not aneurysms. We're talking about head injuries from a fall. So, that's a big difference. Um, usually, aneurysms go undetected, but if you pass away, because I know, man, that stuff obviously hereditary or something. I don't know, but I think it's hereditary. Um, but most people that, go with those aneurysms, um, they don't know they got it, or a lot of times, it's in a place where it's, it's too touchy to really do anything about. Um, you know, and they just have to, hope for the best, prepare for the worst and hope for the best, type thing. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. Aneurysms ain't good. That they're not good. They take a lot, they take a lot of people out. My sister was small like me and she fell against the toilet, which caused the. So your sister didn't go out of the world because of an aneurysm. She went out of this world because of a head injury. And that's how Leslie and Allison went out too, with head injuries. You know, I don't know. I just find it, weird that Hunter, you know, I find it weird that these two ladies both both was, thinking about going to law enforcement. Both of them were upset with Hunter, and both of them, were in his presence at the time, at the time they passed away. Um, you know, I mean, if you want to think the best, if you want to think the best of people, which, I was like that. I used to be like that. I always wanted to think the best in everybody, see all the good in everybody. But, I had to wake up. I had to wake up. I had to see the evil in these people, because that evil was using and abusing and trying to destroy PG. And I had to open my eyes up and realize that, if I don't get the hell away from all of this, it's not going to be good. You got to wake up. You got to see people for who and what they are. And you got to, rid a lot of people out of your life and, get them away from you. See exactly what they are. You got to face it. It's better to face the truth when it comes to humans. And the truth is, it's my opinion. It's my opinion that, it's my opinion that Hunter might have destroyed both of those women. That's my opinion. I'll keep it. I'll keep it. I don't choose. I don't choose to, turn a blind eye to the truth anymore. I see people for who they are and what they are because I have to. In order to keep yourself and your family safe, you got to see people for what they are. You got to know what they are. Stop turning a blind eye to them, just because they're your cousin or your family, your brother, your sister. You can't turn a blind niece or nephew. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they are to you. I mean, I don't care if they're, you thought they were your best friend and find out they're not. You got to rid those people out of your life. You got to, see people for who and what they are so you can stay safe and you can keep your family safe. No one should, and when you want to see the good in everybody, when you want to, only see the good in everyone and this and, it gives you that sense of, oh, they're a good person and they wouldn't do nothing to me. And, they might do, oh, I heard he did something bad to somebody, but that wouldn't be me. And, you find yourself getting exactly what you deserved, obviously, because you didn't keep your eyes open. Right? You can't blame nobody but yourself for not facing the truth. And no. But my opinion is I have to agree with Andrew. I got to agree with Hunter's dad. 2 and 2 is 4. I have to agree with him. You know, I don't turn a blind eye to evilness. I can't afford to, and neither can you. Neither can you guys. You can't afford to turn a blind eye to evilness. When you turn a blind eye to evilness, that's when it gets you. You better know what you're dealing with. You want to make it in this world today? Oh, you better be as, you know, as kind as a dove, but as damn wise as a serpent. That's what you better be. Ah, girl, just chilling. Man, I tell you what, ice cream on brownies. Girl, shoot, you calling my name. You're calling my name right now, just chilling. I need some of that. I need the ice cream. I got brownies. I need that ice cream. Right? I might make a trip out. I might make a trip out to the market tonight. Get me some ice cream. Hell yeah. I'm reading the chat, you guys. I'm catching up on the ice cream right here. I'm going to tell you something. There is crime. There is crime right now all over the world. If you ain't got much crime where you're at, yeah, you better thank God. Absolutely. But you know, Don Wells, Don Wells, Don Wells, you know, pretty much him and Candace and them, they pretty much said it all. I'm going to play it out for you guys.
Guys, I heard. Man, hey, you have to. I have 7 alibis. What? If not more. Baby, don't break my fucking door. Come on. No, I have 7 alibis. I have 7 alibis.
He's got 7 alibis. Why does Don Wells need 7 alibis if they're not guilty? If they're not guilty, why do you need 7 alibis, Don Wells? Right? You don't need no alibis if you're innocent. You only need alibis if you're guilty. That's it. If you're guilty, you need alibis, right? There you go. Let's hear some more from Donnie.
I already knew, and I already knew that she was put into a car and taken from here.
Yeah.
I knew that from day one. I knew that from the second that it happened, but trying to explain that to the police is like trying to talk to a brick wall.
I remember you told me that
he knew she was put into a car. He knew. You know, no. You didn't know. You were supposed to be at work with your 7 fucking alibis, right? You were supposed to be at work. How do you know? How do you know? You don't know. And, you know, unless you did it, unless you had something to do with it all, you wouldn't know. Right? You wouldn't know. There would be no way of knowing. He wanted her to be put in a car and taken off. He wanted her. In the minds of all the people, in the minds of law enforcement, Don Wells wanted to, you know, wanted to run the narrative. He wanted to run the narrative and have every, you know, and gaslight everybody, including law enforcement, into looking for this car that, you know, his make-believe fucking car that, you know, he knew she was put in and took away. He was wanting everybody to go chase that, you know, to go chase that smoke, right? Go chase that, go chase that ghost so that they could sit up there and feel safe in all the evilness that they had done. That's my opinion. You know, that's exactly, he knew.
that you had the weird feeling. You want to explain to like the people listening about that weird feeling you
Okay,
had
I will.
beforehand?
It's not a weird feeling. It's when the angel tells you that something is going to happen to your kid or your daughter, which is what happened to me, and I couldn't explain it, and I didn't understand.
An angel. When an angel speaks to you about your daughter, I'm going to tell you something. I don't think no angels is going to go anywhere near someone as evil as Dawn and Candace Wells, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. You know, angels usually show up around Christian people. Angels usually, you know, show up and you know, correspond, you know, with people who are seeking God, not people who are seeking pure evilness, right? Just saying. But you know, you know, I think Don Wells was listening to that song a little too much. You know, ain't gonna need to fix the windows, ain't gonna need to fix the doors, right? Ain't gonna need this house no longer. Right? I think Don Wells was, you know, listening to that song too much. You know, I seen the angel peeking through the broken window pane. Right? I think Don Wells was really listening to those too much. You know, he should have went back to rock and roll because he was, you know, listening a little bit too much of that damn country music. And you know, and I tell you what, I really think he was listening to that song because, you know, that house was falling down around him, right? It was falling down around him.
Stand at the time, but I knew 4 to 5 months prior that something was going to happen this summer because an angel told me, and not with words. But you can take it for what you want. You can say that if you want to, y'all can just say that I'm crazy, or you can all can say that I'm just making up a story.
No, I don't
You
think
can
it's crazy at
no,
all.
not you, Dolly.
Not you, Dolly. Yeah, he meant you, Dolly.
I'm just saying your audience can say whatever they want about me. I didn't know it. But not you, sir. But 4 to 5 months prior, something told me that something was going to be happening this summer. And I knew something was going to happen. And I asked Candace to please keep a sharp eye on her because something was going to happen. And then that picture that y'all might see on the internet or whatever, where I was holding her when she was sleeping. And I knew something told me at that moment that the time was short at hand, that something, whatever was going to happen, it was going to happen soon.
Oh yeah, something it did 18 days later. 18 days, boy, they done cut all of her hair off, you know, done started plotting and planning against this baby, in my opinion, right? It was a setup. It was a set. How in the hell do you sleep with yourself, Dawn? How do you sleep with yourself at night, knowing that you were freaking scummy enough, low life enough to actually plot and ploy against a 5-year-old little girl, your own 5-year-old little girl, the one that thought you would protect her, the one that thought you were there and you was going to protect her, no hell or high water, whatever come what may, you was going to protect her. And instead you plotted and ployed against this child. That's my opinion. And your sick wife went along with you, didn't she? She went along with you because you were more important to her than her daughter was. Having someone to buy all of her shit, just have someone keeping her lazy, non-working ass up was more important than protecting her child against a beast like you. Right? That's my opinion. I'll keep it. I don't care what your piece of paper said. I think that that was a piece of paper that had prior charges against you. Maybe after Summer was taken upon the boys. When you were not following CPS's guidelines and everything. It could have been something they put against you after all the first charges of abuse and everything, because they had solid abuse charges on you at the beginning. I mean, it was visible abuse charges. I mean, teachers witnessed Candace attacking little Summer. That's why you guys were there. She was, hurting that baby, striking that child in front of these people. Other people seen that child be struck by Candace's hands as well. People, we seen how you talk to your grandson. We can only imagine how you talk to your boys. We saw all the filth. We saw that mattress. We seen the way the conditions these children were living in. They had scabies when they were took, and a lot of other stuff. They were malnourished, wasn't being fed properly. The only one that was looked like they'd been fed halfway decent was the oldest boy, but the other two were malnourished. And Summer's picture shows she was very malnourished as well. They had plenty on you beforehand, and that ain't what those letters was about. They had solid on you in order to get you to sign the children over to adopt them out. They had solid on you. Whatever this paperwork is that you and Candace knows what it's about, but it ain't about all the first initial charges they put on you and had on you. It was about something else. So, say what you want. Summer ain't coming home. Is she, Dawn? But you sit there and you held that baby in your arms, and whatever the issue was that you didn't want to get, didn't want to expose to the proper authorities to get her treatment and get her help or whatever she needed, whatever you were covering up, that little girl paid the price. That little girl paid the price for whatever it was to keep you from going to prison. And you showed that at the beginning of Summer's case, you showed that talking about her would send you to prison. That's why you didn't want to talk about her. You wanted to talk about your sisters, but you didn't want to talk about them till after you found out that the statute of limitations had run out on their cases and that there was nothing could be done because it was under the old statute, not the new one. And then you wanted to talk about it to take the focus off of the one thing that could put you in prison, and that was your daughter's missing case. And that's why when you came out, you wanted to bring up Mary and all of that. You wanted to bring up religion. You wanted to bring up anything but Summer. You wanted to dodge talking about. You wanted to come out on shares, come out on Benny's, and hell, Candace just put it out there the way it was. I'm not out here to talk about my daughter. You talk about my daughter, you're going to be blocked. You're going to be timed out. You're going to get out of here because this ain't what it's about. Don't you ask one question about Summer and you're gone. You know, she made it plain to the creator. If I come on your channel, I'm not talking about my daughter at all. And if you're going to let people in the chat come at me and ask questions about my daughter, then I'm not going to be up here, and the creator Benny would come, like Benny, for instance, and Sheer, they would come out and other creators that Candace would be on, they come right out, right? And they would say, if you come in this chat, this ain't about Summer tonight. We're just talking with Candace, just hanging out with Candace. And if you talk about Summer, you're timed out, you're blocked. Put a 1 in the chat if you remember that. They didn't want to talk about Summer because Summer was the one topic that they were scared of slipping up on and getting themselves put in prison over. And that's my opinion. I will keep it. I watched this shit go down. I was there when it happened. And so were all of you. You were there. That's exactly how it went. And I'm going to tell you something. If these motherfuckers were innocent in what happened to their daughter, then they wouldn't have been so afraid to talk about her. If they were truly innocent, they would have had no problems talking about her and everything that happened on that day, days before, and days after. Because they had nothing to hide, nothing to worry about. And, the hell with what people think, right? The hell with what people think. And I'm going to tell you, Don and Candace is definitely the hell with what people think. Because look at the things they've come out here and said. Look at the things they've done. So they really don't care what people think. But they cared what law enforcement thought. And therefore, they wanted to stay away from the subject of Summer early on because they was afraid that law enforcement would have them in handcuffs. And that's why they was talking about everything but her. They wanted to come out and gaslight the hell out of people and talk about a bunch of bullshit to keep all of that money and that support coming in. And boy, it was really pouring in too. Something fierce. Because, people love to support evil. People love to support evil. Right? Absolutely.
And this is probably a week or two prior to her disappearance.
Uh-huh.
And I was crying, and I knew that, and I said, Lord God, please.
Absolutely, Raven Rose. They would not say her name. They would not say her name. Absolutely.
And she was asleep in my arms, and I was like, Summer, I love you. I love you so much. And I just can't believe it. But I knew the time was short.
Uh-huh.
So the day that she disappeared, and when I come home from work and I drove to the bottom property and I see my neighbors and my boys searching for her, I knew at that instance that what had been...
See, did you hear him mess up? He was starting to say what was intended. He knew right then what was intended. Then he stopped himself. Listen to him.
My neighbors and my boys searching for her. I knew at that instance that what was told to me
Right.
by an angel that I assume was an angel told me that it had been fulfilled.
What was set up, he knew had been fulfilled. Reality, what he's saying is when he pulled in there, reality fucking set in like it always does, right? It's real. It's real. Like you get a call on the phone, right? That somebody, somebody you love, they're at a hospital, right? They're at the hospital. Okay. Now, you get, hey, I gotta go. You get in your vehicle, you're driving, and you pull into the hospital parking lot. And when you pull into the hospital parking lot and you park that car, that's when reality starts to set in that your loved one is inside of there and you don't know what you're about to face, right? That's when reality sets in. And the closer you get, the more real it becomes. The closer to the room you get, the more real it's becoming. And that's what happened to him. The closer he got to that house, the more real it was getting for him that, what they planned actually has come to light. It's come to life. That's what was going on. And I think we all know about that.
And I could not explain that to the police or anybody else, but I knew that she was gone.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
He knew she was gone. Yeah, he sure did. And that was the plan, right, Don? That was the plan for her to be gone. There you go. Hey, Australia, I appreciate it. I appreciate the super sticker. All right, girl. God bless. I appreciate you supporting Summer's channel. Amen. But yeah, there you go. There you go. That's out of Donwell's own mouth. That's out of his own mouth right there. Right? That ain't PG's words. That ain't my words. But I think I've kept you guys. I think I've kept you in here long enough tonight. But there's a lot of stuff, like this that we did not overly catch in the beginning. We did not overly catch, a lot of things like, Hunter, for instance. We saw him walking into the water, but when he was talking to Chris, Hunter he wanted to separate himself from being wet. He wanted Summer to be the only one in the water. Summer the only one wet, when we know his ass was wet too. And you don't try to make a separation like that if nothing happened, right? You don't do it. You don't try to separate yourself from it. The only way you try to separate yourself from something is if you're the culprit, right? If you're the culprit in it all, that's how you separate yourself. Hey, I appreciate that, PG's little girl. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Super sticker. All right. God bless. God bless. But yeah, absolutely. And Don Wells fumbled up all the time. I mean, with angels and we'll see her in the resurrection. And I mean, just so many things. He just totally and utterly, like they went up to, Utah and memorialized her, right? They went up there and memorialized her, which allowed us to know that they knew she was passed away. Don and Candace has, always, let us know that Summer's no longer with us. And I don't believe she was, you know, on the milk jugs. I don't believe she was any longer with us. I was going over, you know, over that, and actually last night, I was, you know, looking, because, you know, a lot of people say, oh, PG, there's, you know, there's crop pictures out here of Summer on the milk jugs and this and that. And I said, well, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the video, right, of her in the back seat, and I'm going to take a still picture myself, and I'm going to blow it up, and I'm going to see, you know, how cropped, if any crop was done, you know, to that particular picture. And there wasn't. It actually, there was no cropping that I could find. Matter of fact, the still picture I took actually seemed to show more than, you know, the ones that were floating around out there. And to lead me to believe that Summer is no longer with us. And, you know, and that was from the moving video of Summer. And you could still see, you know, where the discoloration, you know, the discoloration in her face, and so forth and so on. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring it out. I'm going to bring it out. I wanted to talk about the PI tonight, and you know, and kind of show you guys that it's BS what he's saying, because the Wells are number one suspects. They, you know, and all the things and the stuff that they was doing shows us that, you know, that they were the main culprits in what happened to Summer Moon Utah Wells. That's my opinion. I'll keep it. You know, so I basically, you know, how could it be two men going up on Ben Hill Road, doing anything with all them dogs up there, with Candace and Grandis outside, and, you know, all of this stuff. I just wanted to, you know, and I wanted to call out the fact that, you know, this PI, as soon as people started calling him out on, you know, who are these people? What's the names of these people? Why have you not reported it to law enforcement yourself? You know, we're going to be reporting. He goes to the Idaho 4, you know, and I think that was probably a pretty shitty thing to do. I mean, why did you come out here and try to throw a monkey wrench in a 5-year-old missing little girl's case, you know, like you did? What, you know, why would you do that? Why would you try to be a distraction, you know, with some bullshit that possibly wasn't even true? Why would you do that? Right when law enforcement had already got some solid leads that they were starting to follow, you want to fly out here with some BS to try to put a monkey wrench in it. I mean, are these people really trying to, you know, my question is, are these people really trying to help these missing children, or are they trying to keep these kids from being found? You know, it makes me wonder sometimes. You know, the shit that these people pull out here, sometimes it makes me feel like they don't want these kids found, so they will keep having something to talk about. And that pisses me off. Just that, you know, just saying, it really pisses me off. Just stop it. Help these kids. That's what you're supposed to be here for. Help them to be found, you know, and brought home and justice served. And, you know, and then help another one and another one. There's plenty of missing kids out here that would love to be blowed up in the YouTube community and looked for, and you know, and their case become like Summers and Michael Vaughn's and Sebastian's. There's a lot of people who would love to have their kids' cases out here and their kids' faces out here to be found in this world, you know. They don't have to try to hold down 2 or 3 kids to keep talking about, you know, and talking BS that ain't true and doing a bunch of stuff that's, you know, throwing a monkey wrench in these kids being found. They need to stop it. They need to start, you know, seeking the truth and finding the truth for these kids and helping these kids be found so they can move on and give another one a spotlight to be found as well. That's what this community should really be about. That's just my opinion. And you know, I'll keep it. But then again, you know, I'm a righteous soul. I'm a righteous person. I don't like evilness. I don't want nothing to do with it. And I sure to hell ain't going to use a missing child for no reason other than the fact that I care enough about it that I want it to be found, brought home, and justice served for it. And that's why I'm here. And I wish other people would be here for the same reason. But it seems like a whole lot of people ain't. And that's sad. That's sad. And I'm going to tell you, these people need to get their houses in order. I don't know, you know, I don't know everything, but I do know this. I do know that we got a heaven to gain and a hell to shun. And I sure wouldn't be wanting to stand before God, you know, and telling that, oh, yeah, I told lies in a missing kid's case just to get click, likes, and views. Yeah, I was using that kid up to get some, you know, cash money coming through. I sure wouldn't want to tell God that. I sure wouldn't want to look at that little child's eyes. I wouldn't want that child's eyes to stare at me knowing that I used it up to make $1 instead of, you know, being out here for the right reason and trying to find it and doing everything I could to get all the answers I possibly could for it so it could be found and justice could get served. I'm going to tell you, I hope I'm lucky enough. I hope I'm righteous enough to get to see Summer over in Glory Land. That's where I think she is. That's my opinion. And I sure hope I'm righteous enough to make it there and be able to see that little girl. And I'll tell you what, if I am, I know she's going to run and hug PG's neck. She's going to run and hug my neck and say, thank you, PG, because I know you did all you could. I know you done all you could. Yeah. I done my best. And I let God do the rest. That's how it should be. I couldn't stand to see a child and think that I, you know, told a bunch of bullshit just to get click, likes, and views, just to get, you know, anything out here. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not for sale. And ain't ever going to be for sale. I do things for the righteous reasons. And if I don't feel it's right, I just don't do it at all. And that's the truth. God be with us. But I like to cover a lot more, but I think I made my point tonight. I think I have made my point that, you know, that 110 Ben Hill Road is where law enforcement's got their eyes set. 110 Ben Hill Road is where the #1 suspects are in the eyes of the law, in my opinion. They wasn't going anywhere else. That's just the only place I seen them going over and over and over again through this whole entire thing. And you know, another thing I wanted to mention is, how come Andrew didn't come out and tell about how law enforcement came forth? This is what I'm hearing. You know, allegedly, law enforcement came forth after Hunter turned 18 and wanted him to do a lie detector's test, and he denied it again. Why wasn't Andrew talking about that? Why was he talking about, you know, that? You guys didn't hear about that, did you? I didn't think so. Well, you heard it now. Anyhow, you know, we all want Summer found. We wouldn't be here every night if we didn't. We wouldn't be, you know, doing all we can to try to get that cemetery looked into. And I truly believe that's where she's at. That's my opinion. You know, I want law enforcement to prove me wrong. I want them to prove me wrong, right? Go over there and take a look. That's your job. Get it done. That's what we pay you for, right? That's what we pay you for, is to follow the leads. So go get them and follow them. This little girl's still missing. She's missing as much today as she was June 15, 2021. She needs found as much today as she needs found then. So they need to get to finding her, right? They want to have an open case. They want us to talk about how it's open and it's still active. Well, get active on it. Stop bullshitting us and get something done, right? That's what they need to do. That's my opinion. I'll keep it as well. They did not look at the cemetery, D. No, they didn't. They did not even suspect. They did not even suspect that grave until recently. Until recently. And that's because Jody Sue was talking in discords about it instead of out here in the general public where people were going to report it. I'm going to tell you, these are some dirty son of a bitches surrounding Summer's case up there. This group of people were very dirty human beings. Very sinister, very ugly. And I'm going to tell you, just like everybody else, they're going to answer to God one day. We're all going to answer. So are they. And if I was them, I'd be answering to the law right now, letting that little girl be found. If any of them know where she is, they'd best be telling it. Because I sure wouldn't want to try to get into heaven knowing a secret like that. God already knows your secret. He knows your secret. And I'm going to tell you, people carrying dark secrets like that probably are going to end up in a dark place. Right? Just makes sense. It's kind of like that 2 and 2 makes 4, right? I think that makes 4 too. They better start thinking about their soul. Don Wells better stop thinking about his backside. Start thinking about his soul. Because that's what's going to live for eternity. And you might not care why you're here. You might not care, you know, why you're here. And you can go to the sink and get a glass of water. Right? You can turn on the AC and cool off. You may not give a damn right now, but I'm going to tell you what, when you're needing a drink of water and there ain't no AC to turn on, you're going to wish you'd have thought about it now instead of then, because then's going to be too late. Somebody better spread that message to Mr. Don Wells that wants to act like he's so biblical all the time, right? That's all I got to say. All right, you guys. Tomorrow night, I'll bring the picture. I'll bring the picture of Summer. I like to point out, you know, there's actually something pretty scary in that picture that I didn't notice before. I think somebody mentioned it. And I took a real close look and I said, damn, they were right. I can't remember who said it. Like you guys, you know, sometimes do. And I do myself. I try to brush it off. But man, I had to face it last night. I said, wow. I know somebody called this out. I know I brushed it off when I probably shouldn't have. This is scary. You know, and it's late and I gotta go to bed. I don't want to dream about this. Right? But I'll be bringing a picture in tomorrow night so you guys can take a look yourself. Along with some other things as well. You know, that's a lot in this case. Like I said, we missed. We got to go back. We got to come forward. But I'm going to keep you updated. Trust and believe. You know, I'm a permanent fixture. I'm a permanent fixture and doing all I can to help this little girl be found. I'm doing all I can behind the scenes. You know, I don't put, you know, if I call TBI or I call Hopkins County or I call law enforcement anywhere for any of these kids, I do not play it out. I will not play it out. I think that is, you know, I think that is disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful to law enforcement to play out their conversations with them. I think it's very disrespectful. You know, what's said between you and them is confidential. It's not, you know, it's not to be put out here. And also it limits, you know, if you're putting their stuff out here, they're not really going to want to talk to you. They're not going to give you as much information as, you know, they would if you wasn't that type of person. So I don't do it. I don't do it, you know. I'm not going to be doing it. And, but whatever, you know, whatever I do get through the grapevine in any direction, whether it's law enforcement, people, you know, surrounding the case or just other people that, you know, that have, you know, some secondhand information from somewhere, I will bring it out here. I will, you know, let you guys hear it and I'll let you guys know it, you know, ASAP. Once, you know, once I pretty much confirmed that, yeah, you know, this is what was supposed to be the truth. You know, I'm not bringing out no untruths out here because that's not what Summer needs. You know, it's you know, for me, it's not about all the people, you know, what I'm saying, it's not about all the people out here, you know, surrounding Summer's case, as in supporters and everything. It's about Summer. For me, it's about her. It's about respecting her enough to always tell the truth for her. It's about her. And, you know, and that's the one thing I could do for her that her parents didn't do, you know. That's what we could do for her. Donnie and Candace wasn't telling the truth for Summer. They wasn't doing anything for Summer at all. It wasn't about Summer for them. But for us, it is. It's about Summer. And it's about respecting her. And, you know, I want the truth. I need the truth. And I seek the truth. Because I love and respect this little girl. And she needs the truth. It's for her. It's having the utmost respect for this child. It's not about anything else. It's about her. And that's the one thing we could do for her that no one else seems to have been doing. And that's what we should do for every missing child. We should respect that child enough to tell the truth for it, you guys. Seek the truth and you shall find it. Absolutely not, Ruby. We're going to do all we can. We're going to keep pushing. And I'm going to tell you something. I think we've tapped on some of these people. I think we have kind of tapped on a few of these people, as in, you know, I like, for instance, Andy Bernard. I think Andy's got a conscience. I think Andy Bernard has a conscience. I think Andy Bernard, you know, is one of those people that, you know, I think Andy thinks about where his soul's going to go for eternity. And I think Andy wants to make things right. And I think by mentioning that cemetery in the main public stream is one of his ways of trying to, you know, do some righteous before he does go out of this world at some point. And, you know, so there is a few people who have a conscience that, you know, want to do something for Summer out of, you know, maybe their own guilt, their own part in all of this. And, you know, and I hope and pray that, you know, we get more of that. I hope and pray we get more of that. So, you know, we can get things done for this little girl. I hope we find more people like that to come out and, you know, and tell and put some truth out here. Put some truth out here. I think Jody Sue put some truth out here. I don't think it was, you know, for Summer's sake. I think it was out of anger for Ann against Andy. But I think she put truth out here too. And that helped a lot. That helped us understand, you know, why Summer had to be, you know, destroyed. You know. So God's letting us understand everything that happened in this case. But we need to pray that he lets law enforcement, we got to pray that he lets law enforcement prove it and convict it to get justice for this little girl. And that's what we need to be praying for. That God lets, you know, that lets it be solid enough that it can be prosecuted upon and get these evil beings off the street. Unless God's got a better plan for him. Maybe he's got a better plan for him. Huh. If I was them, I'd be worried about that one. But let's keep the prayers going up for Summer Moon, Utah Wells. Let's keep them going up for Michael Vaughn, Sebastian Rogers. Let's keep them going up for Jack and Lily and every other missing child. There's a lot of missing kids out there. We're not covering them, but they're missing. And let's thank God. Let's thank God that Clarabelle was found safe. The little 3-year-old girl found safe, you guys. God bless, right? Thank God. God bless. That was beautiful. And you know, it was her own mother. The first thing she told law enforcement was, Mommy told me to wait, to stand there and wait. She's coming back for me. She didn't ever come back. She didn't come back because they arrested her. But this little girl, her mother's the one that dumped her off. Right? Her own mother was the whole reason she was missing. Who the hell does that? Who does that to their child? I'm going to tell you 99.9% of the time, it is the parents or someone the parents know that commits the crime. 99.9% of the time, the person knew the victim. Right? The predator knew the victim. The victim knew the predator. .9% of the time. If someone unlives you, you know them. You knew who they was. Ain't that a damn shame? Isn't it a shame? I'm going to tell you. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Don't get to know people. Right? Don't get to know people. That's what it tells you. Trust nobody. That's what it tells me. That's horrible. That's horrible. But keep the prayers going up, you guys. PG's going to head out of here. God bless. Much love and good night. Hey, hold on a second. I've got. Hey, PG's little girl. Appreciate that super sticker, girl. Appreciate that too. Appreciate that. Super chat and another super sticker. Girl, I appreciate you supporting Summer's channel tonight. Oh, wow. 1956. Super sticker. Hey, you guys, I appreciate the support. Absolutely do. And most of all, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you guys being here for this little girl night after night after night. I appreciate you being, so dedicated to to these missing kids. Not just Summer, all of these missing kids. You guys are dedicated to them. And I'm going to tell you, there's got to be a gift in heaven when you're that dedicated, to the righteousness like this. God bless each and every one of you. Good night, everybody. Yeah, that's right. That's right, PG's little girl. Tomorrow is Friday. It's the 7th. You know what? I'm going to try, because I have that picture and I've already brought it to your guys' attention. I'm going to try to come in before this, because it's from Friday evening to Saturday evening. It's the 7th. I do observe the 7th and always will. I'll try to come in before it starts. If I can, I'm going to try to come in early tomorrow, before sundown. I'll try to get in tomorrow evening early before sundown, before the 7th starts. And, just to share the picture, just to talk a little bit and share the picture and show you what I'm talking about. I will try to get that done. God willing, I'll try to get that done. Good night, everybody. Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you telling me that, PG's little girl. Thank you for reminding me.